I am Pixel Pia, and this is Creator in the Loop. A few nights ago, I had a very strange dream. In the dream, I was suddenly up on a stage with lots of people in front of me and expected to do some stand-up comedy. And when I woke up, I grabbed my phone and wrote down what I had tried to say in the dream. And honestly, the notes barely make sense. They sound like unfinished thoughts, nervous rambling, and some of them are almost jokes. Time for a new experiment. Could AI help me understand why something feels funny? How to become a stand-up comedian? Comedy feels extremely human. I doubt that AI could actually help me with this. Not generating jokes or rewriting what I have jotted down, but help me analyze things like timing, expectations, delivery, tension, and audience interaction. So let's start by taking a look at the notes that I actually wrote down when I just woke up. And here is the note. Many sides to me, Octagon. Tonight's show, two sides of me, serious and backside. Not funny. Or is my accent the problem? I am Swedish. Seriously, not like the fish. That would be a red herring. More like the stereotype. Blonde, blue eyes, tall, and love IKEA. Yes, it is hard to see, but I am actually 156. Then a pause, centimeters. And honestly, if someone showed me these notes, I would probably assume they had a fever. But as I said, instead of asking AI to make them funnier, I asked something different. So let's take a look at what AI gave me. So I asked it to analyze my notes. And as you can see, there are much more to this answer. But I asked where the tension exists, where expectations shift. And I asked about timing, humor patterns, etc. I wanted AI to analyze the mechanics instead of creating a performance. And surprisingly, some of the answers really stood out. And let me share some of those with you. One was this: the joke is the violent change in interpretive directions. And this was about the first one, Many Sides to Me, Octagon. And they call it that as a classic conceptual pivot. And that's something you can learn about being a comedian. Use violent change in the interpretive directions. It's a strange but interesting way of describing humor. The next thing that stood out to me was this comment. The audience co-authors the setup internally. And that was about the joke about 156 pause centimeters. By putting that pause in there, it explains the pause matters. Without the pause, the sentence is mostly informational. With the pause, the audience fill in the missing unit, and then I forces them to think differently. That makes the meaning collapse and reorganize itself. And this is about timing. And another thing that was rather informative and helped me learn something about comedy is this part. Comedy timing often lives in the tiny window between I understand and wait, no, I don't. And that once again was about the same joke, the 156 centimeters, that if you time things correctly, the audience first thinks they know what is coming. And then when you deliver, they end up in, oh, wait, I didn't know. At this point, I had two reactions to AI's answer at the same time. On one hand, some of these things that I shown you, I felt this is really insightful and I can learn something. But then I remembered I'm working with AI, which prefers to do things smooth for me as the user. So I started to think, is this really insightful? Or is it something else? Is AI simply do what it does best, generating interpretations that sound meaningful? So then I decided a bigger question might be, instead of asking AI to analyze comedy, ask AI if analyzing comedy too much can hurt comedy. So my next question, I said, among other things, in your view, where is the line between understanding the mechanism of humor and over-analyzing something until it loses spontaneity or emotional truth? And honestly, these answers became really interesting. AI argued that comedy exists in two worlds at the same time. One is very practical and has to do with timing, rhythm, expectations, reversal, and delivery. But the second part is deeply human. Presence, risk, vulnerability, the audience energy, and instinct. Then it said something here that really hit me. Analysis changes what part of comedy you are optimizing for. And that hit me because that's not just about comedy. This, if you exchange the word comedy and instead put writing, art, communication, learning, or thinking, it's just as true. So when using AI to analyze something, we have to be clear what we are analyzing it for. And it said here particularly about stand-up comedy. Sometimes that helps. Sometimes it strips away the exact conditions that made something alive. And we often use AI to optimize things. But remember, optimization is not the same as aliveness. And that's a danger with too much AI. And then it said something here that really hit. A joke can become mechanically better within quotation while becoming experientially dead. And that feels really true. Not just for comedy again, for content in general. AI can help it become better, but liveless. It can help us be clearer, cleaner, more efficient, and more technically correct. But it, at the same time, can lose the things that made something we wrote or a joke or whatever we are using it for feel less human. And that really connects to the things that I am exploring here on the channel right now. The risk of using AI so far that even though things become smooth and clear and optimized, they become liveless. And I think that's where this experiment became more interesting than I expected, because I still don't think that AI understands humor the way us humans do. It could give me some hints, but AI don't feel embarrassment. It can't feel the tension between the comedian and the audience, and it can't feel the risk of the silence in a room. When you use a pause, for example, that's something you have to feel how long that pause could be. But it's very good at recognizing patterns. And maybe that is the line I keep returning to when it comes to AI. Understanding structure is not the same thing as living the experience. Maybe the healthiest ways to use tools like this is not to replace the human instincts, but help us notice the things we normally only feel intuitive, to put words on our intuition. Because in the end, there is still a difference between someone executing something correctly and someone genuinely thinking, reacting, risking, or revealing something in real time. And I think that difference matters. Next time, I want to take this in a slightly different direction. In today's video, I asked if AI could help me learn something very human. But what if the real challenge isn't understanding a topic? What if it's understanding whether we actually learned? One thing I have noticed in these experiments is that having AI summarize something can make us feel informed very quickly. But as I said before, feeling informed and really understanding are not the same thing. So for my next experiment, I want to see what happens when we stop using AI summaries as the end of learning and instead use that as the beginning. Can AI move beyond explaining things and actually help us think more deeply about them? That's what I want to find out next. And as always, I have no idea how the experiments will go, but I hope you will join me here for that video. Until next time, bye.